Welcome back, my friends, to your recaps. The movie begins on April 18th, 2003, with Summer, a high school student. We see her entering a place called Hay Sheds to attend the spring party with her schoolmates. Before entering, she meets her classmate Quinn, who admits he wasn't sure she would come. Summer replies that she wasn't certain she could make it either. It's evident that Summer is the only one afraid of the serial killer. Quinn tries to console her over the death of her close friend Amy and asks how she's doing to check on her. During their conversation, she notices an envelope in his hand and asks about it, but before he hands it over, their classmate Ethan arrives. He expresses his happiness at her attendance, stating that the party wouldn't be the same without her. Ethan takes her inside, and at that moment, a police patrol is on its way to shut down the party. Meanwhile, a masked man enters through the back door. During the party, Ethan asks for the music to be stopped so he can say a few words. He speaks about the memory of their friends, Val, Brian, and Amy, who were murdered by the serial killer. Sweetly, he expresses hope that the killer will be caught and punished soon. Ethan encourages everyone at the party to continue celebrating in honor of their deceased friends. Summer feels surprised that everyone at the party is acting so normally. Ethan explains that they are holding the party to move past their grief and cope with what happened, adding that he believes she came for the same reason. She recalls her friend Amy and decides to stay, as she doesn't want to be alone. At one point, the drink in Ethan's hand spills onto her clothes and she leaves, upset, to clean up. Meanwhile, the police arrive, and one officer expresses concern that the teenager's actions might be reckless. His colleague assures him they're just trying to lift their spirits. The police enter the party, announce its end, and instruct everyone to go home, warning that anyone who continues celebrating will be taken to the station. At this moment, Summer is shocked to see the masked man in the bathroom. He attempts to stab her with a knife, and she tries to escape, calling for help from her friends, but no one hears her. The masked man catches up with her and kills her. 20 years later, on April 18th, 24, we see Lucy, Summer's sister, who feels her life has turned into a black hole after Summer's death, the shining star of their family. Lucy receives a call from NASA informing her that she has been accepted into the training program she applied for. It becomes clear that Lucy applied for this program as a way to cope with what happened in her life since April 18th, 2003, the day serial killer Sweetly began a 3-day killing spree, claiming the lives of 4 teenagers, including her sister Summer. Since then, grief and shock have gripped the town. Lucy decided to study space sciences to find her place in the universe. As the past continues to dominate her life and future, she seeks to understand the dark aspects of the cosmos as a way to make sense of her reality. Lucy arrives at Sweet High School, the same school her sister Summer attended. She visits her science teacher, Mr. Fleming, and shares the news that NASA has responded and accepted her. Mr. Fleming congratulates her warmly, telling her he was confident they would accept her. He asks how her family reacted to the news, and she admits that she intended to tell them, but felt the day was inappropriate since it was the anniversary of her sister's death. Mr. Fleming expresses sympathy, revealing that Summer was one of his students, and acknowledges how hard this day must be for her. Lucy confesses she hasn't told her parents yet, as she is certain they will not allow her to travel to the capital for 3 months of training. She notes that they barely let her stay out late. Mr. Fleming encourages her to stay optimistic, suggesting her parents might surprise her by agreeing. Lucy asks about the turtle living in the lab's box. Mr. Fleming explains it has been living there for about 20 years. Lucy expresses her empathy for the turtle, comparing its struggle to her own. Mr. Fleming advises her not to let herself be at the mercy of life's randomness, but to shape her future intentionally. Lucy leaves the office and notices her classmates discussing the crimes, with some suggesting making a podcast about them. When she returns home, she finds herself entering Summer's room, which her family has kept untouched since the day of Summer's death. Lucy's eyes wander across the old devices and photos of Summer with her friend. She stumbles upon a collection of letters, one of which is from an anonymous sender, stating, "I have now achieved the freedom you will never reach." The letter ends with a cryptic hint that the sender's name starts with the letter E. At that moment, her mother enters the room and asks why Lucy is in Summer's room. Lucy hides the truth and decides to keep the letter to herself. Later, Lucy is seen having lunch with her parents at a restaurant. Dolores, the waitress serving them, notices the striking resemblance between Lucy and Summer. This remark brings sadness to Lucy's mother, prompting Dolores to apologize and leave. Lucy decides to tell her parents that she has been accepted into NASA's training program. They are surprised, but visibly worried. Her father suggests she train at his workplace, considering it safer and more suitable for her, especially since it's closer to home. However, her mother cuts the conversation short, insisting they finish their meal quickly to visit the site where Summer was killed. The family arrives at the site of Summer's murder. They have a tradition of leaving a memento there every year. Lucy's mother asks her to place the memento they brought, but Lucy realizes she forgot to bring anything. To avoid upsetting them, she pretends she left it in the car and goes to search her bag for something suitable. While searching, Lucy notices a strange light emanating from the room where Summer died. Driven by curiosity, she approaches to investigate. Inside the room, she finds a peculiar device with an unfamiliar design. Her curiosity compels her to press a power button on the device, causing it to emit strange lights that make her feel intense pain. Lucy stumbles out of the room in shock, only to find that the surroundings have drastically changed. She is further alarmed when she realizes her parents are no longer there. She takes out her phone, only to discover there is no network coverage. Lucy begins running back to her town in panic. She notices that the Riverside Diner, which had been closed for years, is now open. Her confusion deepens when she sees a sign that reads "Touches." Determined to find answers, she decides to head to the school and speak with Mr. Fleming. When Lucy enters the school, she notices the students' strange clothing and the old mobile phones they are holding. She is shocked to see Summer standing before her. Lucy decides to watch her closely and overhears her telling her friends that they will be going to the mall that evening. Ethan arrives, and she observes him talking to Brian, who seems confused about why Summer ended their 2-year relationship. Lucy heads to Mr. Fleming's lab. When he sees her, he asks if she's a new student. She tries to blend in and asks him about his thoughts on time travel. Quinn, who is in the lab, appears puzzled by her question. Fleming responds by saying that everyone is traveling through time. At that moment, Quinn accidentally drops a test tube, which shatters on the floor. Quinn apologizes to Fleming, wishing he could go back in time to prevent the accident. Fleming remarks to Lucy that she arrived at the perfect time since Quinn, a physics genius, could answer her questions. Quinn begins discussing the concept of time travel with her, explaining that traveling to the past is a frightening idea because it could lead to time paradoxes with potentially disastrous effects. Lucy leaves for the lunch break and notices Ethan and his friends forcibly dragging Quinn out of the school. She asks what's happening, and Amy explains that it's a silly tradition where senior students throw one of their peers into the river. Outside, a crowd of students gathers around the scene. Quinn pleads with them to stop, but Lucy intervenes, asking Ethan what they are doing. He responds that it's just harmless fun. She angrily retorts that this kind of fun is unacceptable, punches Ethan and knocks him to the ground. She sarcastically remarks that now the joke is genuinely funny rather than lame. Quinn, feeling embarrassed, tells Lucy that he doesn't need a girl to defend him. Lucy counters that if this happened in her time, a video of it would have gone viral on Twitter. Quinn, confused, asks, "What's Twitter?" Lucy tries to explain, but realizes there's nothing comparable in their time. She then tries to convince him that she's from the future. Quinn doesn't believe her and demands proof. Lucy pulls out her smartphone, explaining that it's a device unlocked with facial recognition and can function as a phone, television, camera, flashlight, and much more. Quinn is amazed by what he hears, believing that Lucy's phone is more like a computer than just a phone, and guesses that such a device would be worth $1 million in the future. He asks her who the current president of the United States is. Lucy is surprised that he ignores everything else and asks such a question. He then asks about what life looks like in the future, specifically whether there are robots in every home like pets. Lucy explains that every home now has a smart robotic vacuum cleaner. At that moment, Summer enters and apologizes to Quinn, telling him she broke up with Ethan because of his behavior. She asks about the chemistry homework he was supposed to complete for her. He assures her it's done and that he'll give it to her whenever she wants. Summer notices Lucy and feels her face looks familiar. She asks Lucy if they've met before. Lucy nervously replies that everyone says the same thing, but insists they've never met. Afterward, Lucy decides to go with Quinn to show him the time travel device that transported her. Quinn is intrigued and asks if this device is what brought her back in time. Lucy explains that the light emitted from the device suddenly transported her to this time. Quinn asks why she chose April 16th, 2003. Lucy becomes tense and tells him they need to go immediately. Lucy and Quinn arrive at his lab with the device. Quinn begins to disassemble it and finds a component labeled sonar, which emitted the light. Lucy believes they need to find similar components. Quinn points out that it's not that simple, as they can't just walk into a nuclear research facility and request such components. Lucy reveals that she used to work at the Sonar Nuclear Research Facility. Quinn asks why she became so anxious upon learning the date. She responds with a question. If you knew a disaster was going to happen on this date, would you intervene to stop it? Quinn asserts that he wouldn't intervene, as changing the past is a grave mistake that could have catastrophic consequences, like causing everyone to disappear from existence. Lucy asks him to take her home because she has a plan she wants to execute. Shortly after, Quinn and Lucy arrive at her house, and Quinn is surprised to learn that Summer is her sister. Lucy tells him she will go inside to retrieve her father's access card for the nuclear facility and quickly return. Quinn warns Lucy that her plan is foolish and could cause them serious trouble, since she is not supposed to interact with her family in the past. However, she assures him that they have no other choice. Afterward, Quinn gets out of the car and meets Summer, who asks him about the chemistry homework he was supposed to finish for her. Quinn hesitates and suggests she ask Lucy for help, pointing out that she loves science. Lucy tries to convince Summer that she's worse at science than Quinn, but Summer agrees and invites Lucy into the house. Once inside, Lucy meets Summer's parents, who warmly welcome her. They invite her to stay and have dinner with them. Summer asks her parents for permission to go to the mall with Lucy because her friends, Val and Brian, will be there. Her father objects, saying she needs to finish her studies first. Her mother adds that her academic performance has been declining since she stopped studying with Amy after their fallout, and asks if they've reconciled yet. Lucy responds casually, expressing how much she enjoys the food her mother has prepared, and asks if she always cooks like this. Her mother smiles and says she loves cooking, and that the time she spends with Summer in the kitchen is the most cherished. Lucy feels sad, reflecting on how different her mother in the present is, as she no longer shares such moments with her. After dinner, Lucy sits alone, her sadness evident. Summer approaches and asks why she looks so upset. Lucy replies that her father and mother are completely different from her parents in her timeline. Summer feels fortunate, even if her mother constantly criticizes her grades. Lucy reassures her that her mother is the same way, not just about grades, but about everything. Summer explains that she relies on Quinn to complete her assignments because they've been friends for a long time, and he offered to help her. Noticing Lucy's unusual outfit, Summer suggests they go to her room to pick out something different for her to wear. When Lucy tries on one of Summer's outfits, Summer comments that she looks like Hannah Montana. Lucy feels the clothes suit her well. She then asks Summer about her friends Val and Brian. Summer tells her she's known Val since she was 5 and that she's a very nice girl. Lucy then asks Summer a surprising question. If you knew a disaster was about to happen, would you intervene to stop it, even if you knew it could have negative consequences later? Summer assures Lucy that she will do everything she can to stop the crime, no matter what. Lucy asks about the closing time of the mall, and Summer tells her it closes at 9 o'clock. Lucy checks the time and notices it is almost 8:30, so she decides to move quickly. Lucy arrives at the mall, meets Quinn, and asks about Val and Brian. At that moment, Val is in the fitting room trying on clothes while Brian is outside alone. A masked individual wearing a mannequin-like mask approaches and stabs Brian in the neck. Val comes out of the fitting room, shocked to see Brian murdered. The masked figure attempts to attack her, prompting her to flee, but she ends up falling down the stairs. Lucy seeks help from security, but the masked figure kills the security guard and escapes. Quinn arrives at the crime scene and along with Lucy, decides to help her. Quinn offers Lucy to stay on his boat for a while until she can get back to normal life. Lucy realizes that the killer is extremely dangerous, and that his victim count is increasing, especially after the unexpected murder of the security guard. She confirms to Quinn that the killer is a serial murderer who likely has more victims ahead. Lucy also tells him that her mother suspects someone named Ethan, even though he had an alibi during the crimes. In the morning, Lucy decides to visit her family's house to retrieve her father's card, which would allow her access to the nuclear facility. When she enters the house, she meets Samar, who questions how she managed to be at the mall during the time of the murders. Lucy tells Samar that she tried to stop the crime, but couldn't. Samar asks how Lucy knew the crime was going to happen in the first place. Lucy is forced to reveal the truth, explaining that she is her sister and has come from the future. To prove it, she shows Samar a letter from Ethan she found in her room. However, Samar admits she is seeing this letter for the first time, leaving Lucy to understand why she might not believe her. There is no reason for Lucy to lie to Samar, so Lucy repeats her desire to return to her time. She asks Quinn to help fix the state of time because she wants to go back. Quinn asks if she really wants to return, and Lucy feels an overwhelming sense of loneliness because no one understands her. Quinn tells her that he feels the same way, especially since the death of his parents. He asks her that if they are able to fix the machine, he would like to know what his future holds, because he hopes it will be better than his current situation. At that moment, Samar arrives and is surprised that Quinn believes Lucy. He assures her that he believes her completely. Samar then asks Lucy about her future, and Lucy tells her that she will be beautiful, successful, have many friends, marry a handsome man, and live a stable life. Samar smiles and asks about Val and Brian, and Lucy tells her that she doesn't know, and the police weren't able to solve all the crimes. Samar becomes anxious when she learns that there are more crimes to come, but Lucy assures her that they won't be able to intervene because when she interfered last time, things got worse. Quinn explains that interfering could cause a third world war, but Samar insists on knowing who will be the next victim. Lucy tells her that the victim will be at the Maritime Museum tonight. Samar decides to let Quinn help her and join Lucy in trying to save Amy. Quinn agrees and says he will make sure they get to her. Lucy is surprised by Quinn's response and asks about the potential world war. Quinn tries to reassure her, saying they'll try to make a minor change that might not affect the future much. Lucy tells Samar that they might all die, but Samar insists that she will not allow the crime to happen and moves forward. They all begin to move, each with something different to protect themselves. Meanwhile, Amy is at the museum and they try to contact her, but she doesn't respond. They reach the museum and Samar asks them to split up, each person searching in a different boat, since there is a back entrance to the boats that is always open. Quinn and Lucy enter one boat together, while Samar is left in another boat alone. They noticed that the lighting was unstable, which increased their fear. At that moment, the masked figure was moving between the boats and reached the spot where Amy was. Samar saw him and tried to call out to warn Amy, and Quinn and Lucy heard her. They quickly rushed to save Amy before the masked figure could reach her. They escaped together and arrived at Quinn's house. Lucy assured him that she was very happy they managed to save Amy without anyone getting hurt. She insisted that they must intervene to save the next victim. Quinn was shocked when he found out that the next victim was Samar, and he told her they needed to inform him first. Lucy decided to invite Samar to dinner to warn her about what could happen, but she hesitated, trying to hide the truth from her. She returned home with Samar and stayed with her. The next morning, Lucy woke up early and tried to take her father's card so she could enter the nuclear facility. She saw her father and offered to have breakfast with him. He asked about her summer plans, and she told him she would be spending time with friends. Both of them were surprised, realizing they were proud of her. Lucy asked her mother if they were planning to have another child, and her father replied that it was not part of their plans, as Samar had been a mischievous child and they needed to focus on taking care of her. Lucy confirmed that her existence was tied to Samar's death, and sadness appeared on her face. She realized that saving Samar meant her parents wouldn't have any more children, and she wouldn't exist in the future. Before leaving, she decided to take the card. Lucy arrived at Quinn's lab, but he wasn't there. She saw the letter he had planned to give to Samar and discovered that he loved her deeply and wished to be with her. At that moment, Quinn arrived. Lucy smiled quickly and told him she had taken her father's card and they could enter the facility. Quinn asked her if she had spoken to Samar and warned her about what could happen. Lucy said she couldn't do that, confirming that she was sure she wouldn't be around if Samar stayed alive. Quinn expressed concern, and it became clear that he couldn't let his sister die. He realized that Lucy had read his letter and understood that he loved Samar. Quinn assures her that it doesn't matter and that they must save Samar no matter what. However, Lucy feels that the situation is very complicated for her and that her existence is tied to Samar's death. She feels her life has lost value after discovering that her presence caused a gap in her family's life and that her parents tried to fill this gap with her but failed. She tells Samar that she didn't know her before, but after getting to know her, she understood her parents' feelings, and she assures her that if her life ends, hers will also be destroyed. Lucy says she can't imagine her future without Samar and believes it's her right to live and achieve everything she dreams of. She tells Samar that she has a plan to save her and asks her to trust her. That night, Lucy arrives at the nuclear facility, and it seems they have a plan to execute, as they don't want to lose any of them. They successfully enter the facility, and Quinn asks if they will truly be able to save Samar and bring Lucy back to her life in the future. Lucy confirms they can do it if they stick to the plan and kill the killer. Meanwhile, a security guard enters the facility, and they quickly hide so he doesn't see them. Samar arrives with Ethan at the spring party, looking extremely happy. She decides to go inside to celebrate, and she appears joyful. But Amy is puzzled by her actions and realizes that she's acting as if something won't happen again. Samar steps out and faces the killer without fear, trying to lure him into chasing her. Inside the nuclear facility, Quinn is surprised that Lucy suddenly decided to save Samar. He realizes that when she got close to her and got to know her better, she felt that Samar was truly her sister, not just a figment of her parents' imagination. That's why she decided to save her. They enter the lab to get the missing piece of the time machine. They are shocked when they find the security guard murdered and the missing piece from the lab is gone. Quinn takes the piece and believes he is one step ahead, thinking that he, too, is from the future. But Lucy tells him that he won't be able to outsmart them, as she is also from the future. She takes the piece and moves quickly. At that moment, Samar enters the place where she was supposed to be killed, and the killer arrives. She faces him before he can kill her, but just as he's about to strike, Quinn's car arrives and hits him, causing him to lose consciousness. Samar quickly manages to escape. Everyone is in disbelief that they managed to save her. Lucy asks Quinn to hurry to his lab to activate the time machine. At that moment, the killer regains consciousness and his mask falls off, revealing that he is actually Quinn. They move quickly before he can attack them. They arrive at Quinn's house and Lucy asks him to stay by the door and stop the killer if he tries to enter. He assures her that he doesn't want to become that monster in the future, and he agrees to help her. Lucy enters and starts trying to activate the time machine. The killer arrives and knocks on the door. Quinn prepares to face him, and when the killer enters, he's furious and asks what's going on. Quinn asks him what happened, and the killer explains that he's the same person, but everyone has been mocking him. He recounts how he was thrown into the river by Brian after an incident, and how Samar was standing there laughing at him, which caused all the misery he went through. He also mentions the letter he wrote, filled with his feelings, to which Samar responded by saying she could never love him and mocked him. After that, he decided to get revenge by killing Samar and her close friends, and he traveled through time. Quinn is shocked that he would go so far just because she rejected him, and the killer tries to attack Lucy. However, Quinn, from the past, threatens to kill himself. At that moment, the time machine is fully charged, and Lucy tells Quinn that the one thing she hadn't planned for was killing Samar because she wouldn't exist in the future. The time machine activates, and Lucy holds on to Quinn and the killer, and they travel together through time. Lucy tells Samar to escape quickly. Lucy and Quinn arrive in the future, and they are in a car charging station. Quinn tries to kill her, and Lucy begins defending her herself. She manages to electrocute him with a car charger, causing him to lose consciousness. She notices that he still has a nuclear piece in his pocket. Lucy approaches the killer to take the nuclear piece from him so he can't escape through time again. But Quinn wakes up and grabs her hand, holding his knife. In the past, we see Samar with Quinn, telling him that she is happy to have a sister, but unfortunately, she won't be able to see her again because she disappeared. Lucy cries and tells them she has returned to them, reassuring them that she killed the killer. Samar smiles and talks about her life in the future, but she tells Lucy that when she returned, she realized that this is her life and that it would be better for her to stay with them. Samar asks Quinn how he traveled to the future, killed the killer, and came back so easily. Quinn explains that after killing the killer and returning home, he discovered that his parents didn't know who Lucy was, because she wasn't supposed to be born after she saved Samar. Lucy decides to continue her life with her sister and her family in the past, and she manages to get a scholarship to NASA in 2003. She is extremely happy and convinces herself that all she can do is enjoy the time she lives and grow closer to the people she loves. Please, if you like my content, support me with a like and subscribe to the channel. Have a nice day, my friend.